What is up, everybody? It is Shout as Ginger,
And Tom,
and
and we're
we're
the Block
the Block
Bros.
Bros. Oh, we did it. Okay, that was good. That was good. Just so I get this out of the way now, I am incredibly exhausted right now, so this episode may be a little bit more lackluster than usual, and I may fuck up a lot. So sorry in advance.
Welcome to the sleepy episode of Block Bros, where we are half dead, exhausted, and
This is yeah, this is actually the ASMR Block Bros episode where we're just really quiet and not very talkative.
right. You're gonna hear us like eat potato chips really loudly halfway
Oh
through
my
this
god.
episode.
That was last episode. I apologize. I didn't think anyone could hear that on the mic, but I listened to that episode and I just heard like crunch, 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 bag, crunch, 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 and I
I
was
don't
like, you know
know.
what?
Some people love that,
Fuck it. Yeah, ASMR. Yeah, we didn't get paid for it, but it was worth it. It was
right?
worth it. But Tom, how was your week? Go ahead and tell me about it.
It's been pretty good, honestly. Just went a bit down south to Minnehaha Falls the other day, and it's still pretty nice down there, for the most part. Is like there's always couple sketchy spots near parks in the cities, like no matter which way you go. But it's really cool because you can like walk behind that waterfall and do stuff. It's a really cool little spot in Minnesota. And then I walked upstairs, like the stairs there, and there's like a whole bluegrass festival going on, like out of nowhere. Just I was like, oh yeah, it's Labor Day. I guess why not? A whole bunch of bluegrass music. I thought the funniest part was the only people sitting and watching it were definitely about 70 years or older. But
They love some fucking bluegrass apparently.
yeah,
As for me, I mentioned last episode that I quit my job, so today I started my new job. It was okay. I don't hate it. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, it was just really physically exhausting, and also I have to do basically a full on like time schedule change. Like I'm used to staying up till like 4, 5, 6 a.m. Now I get up at like 7 a.m. So like that's really hard. And just so everyone knows, we record this podcast very late at night. Tuesdays at like 10:30 ish p.m. Central Standard Time. So I basically just have to go to bed right after this to get up for
yeah.
work tomorrow. So I'm getting used to that. And so if I seem a little groggy, that is definitely why. But with that being said, how about we roll into what game we totally planned and didn't make up on the spot to talk about this week? What are we talking about this week, Tom?
Little awesome game called Monster Sanctuary.
Ooh, what is that game about?
Okay, so basically, if you love like Pokemon and Metroidvania games, then this is pretty much going to be the game for you. It's all sorts of the exploring elements you can imagine from Metroidvania, but mixed with like the combat and fun style of collecting Pokemon. Um, it's really cool because features those old school pixel kind of graphics. It was developed by Dennis Sinner and released on 2018 or 2019 August 28th. So
Hey,
see, I
awesome.
told you this is the half dead tired episode. We're making mistakes.
We're gonna try to make it fun, but I'm tired. But yeah, no, Tom nailed it on the head. If you like Pokemon, and you like Metroidvania, this is the game for you. It's called Monster Sanctuary. With
Yep.
that being said, let's move into the storyline.
Storyline.
So I'll take this.
hmm
So basically, the basic premise of Monster Sanctuary is, for decades and decades and decades, all through time, monsters and keepers have basically lived in harmony with each other. You can think of keepers like trainers and monsters like Pokemon. But until recently, some crazy, powerful monsters and strange creatures have started to show up, and some less than savory characters training and wielding them. And they become more powerful, and they've upset the peace that has been held for decades through the land. Basically, you're a brand new keeper that has been trusted with unraveling this mystery and figuring out why these monsters are coming about. And you basically get your first monster, and it's been passed down through your family for generations. And Tom will talk about that more later. And you set out on your adventure, and it's really interesting. It's a really fun game. I had a great time with it. But that's the basic premise of the storyline. Do you want to add anything onto that?
Yeah, I mean that's a great way just to get this kind of started on the storyline. It gets more in depth later, just with like main kind of villains. I mean, we are definitely gonna draw like a lot of connections probably to Pokemon, but like think of like Alchemist in this, kind of like Team Rocket in Pokemon.
Yeah,
So they're
very
like the
similar.
main bad guys overall, but like this is just like I said, it's a really fun Pokemon-esque Metroidvania game, and I would like to welcome you all to Monster Sanctuary.
That's Jurassic Park, but you know what? If I get close enough, might as well be with some of the monsters in this game.
Right?
Well, let's move on to graphics and art.
Graphics and art.
As always, guys, just so you're aware, we are a live podcast. We do broadcast live when we talk about things like the graphics or the art. You can see them live with us. If you'd like to see them, we do broadcast to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch every Tuesday at around 10:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can see our ugly faces, and you can watch the game with us while we talk about it. With that being said, I'm gonna throw that up on the screen. Give me 1 second to do that. And you can start talking about the graphics and art at any time, Tam. Since I
Right.
know you like to start usually with that.
Yeah. So like I said, this game is pretty much all, pixel theme before. Like most of the games we have talked about, they're mostly pixel games. That's their name, Block Bros. But what I really personally like about this game is the attention to detail that they put in every single enemy type, everywhere you go. Like everything in this game is just like the location wise are breathtaking and vast and feel tight when they want to and feel expansive when they want to. The monsters like are unique, and you can surely just see the types of creature you're going to get just based on looking at them, kind of like Pokemon does, but in this sense it really, you feel like the power just emanating just from like their creature type. Like I personally, like, this is one of my favorite like actual like kind of characters you play as in a pixel form. Like no matter you pick the guy or girl, they look fantastic in this game. Like I love the way they look and the way they move and playing them.
So, this is a funny story. This has nothing to do with the graphics, but I didn't know that one was a dude and one was a girl. And not like it matters, but when I
Right.
was playing, my colors for my stream, as you could probably tell if you're watching right now, are blue and black. And the girl, I found out later that it was a girl, but I chose the girl because she's blue all over. I was like, oh, cool, like it matches my colors, and it has long hair. It's just a dude with long hair, and so I clicked that, and then like I don't even think it until like it's probably like 30 to 40 minutes into the game, someone addresses you as like the daughter of somebody else, and I was like, wait a minute. Like chat was like like losing their mind about it, and I was
Oh
like, oh my
man.
god, I had no idea. But graphically, I gotta say, I think my favorite part about this game graphically, besides what Tom said, which is like the design, the individual designs of all the monsters or the effects of their attacks, is the background. I really like the background, how it adds like because it's a 2D side scroller. We've all seen 2D
Mhm.
side scrollers, but it's very reminiscent to me of like Dead Cells, where it has a lot of depth of field. Like the background is very detailed, and even though you're only playing on the 2D little level, the background still looks phenomenal. Other than that, I didn't really think that any of the environment was like breathtaking or mind blowing, but just the level of detail they put into the characters was more than enough for me, and the level of detail they put into the monsters and the effects and stuff like that was phenomenal.
Yeah, like I really like the attack animations in this game. They all like convey what they're going after, but like you get to visually watch like whatever tiny attack you see kind of in the screen is going to convey that bigger and just way cooler. Like sometimes I know we're gonna talk about Pokemon a lot, like I said, but you ever watch some moves in Pokemon that like don't even look like the move they're supposed to be? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
like I mean, come on, with some of the ones, every single attack in this game actually looks like the way it would you would feel like it would seem to be.
Yeah, and exactly. It's like they put in a lot of labor of love to make sure that the attacks get conveyed very well and it's organized well. It's a very graphically diverse game in all the right ways, while the background is not distracting because you're still playing a 2D level, a platformer. Like at the end of the day, you're still playing a 2D platformer, but the main focus of this game is in my opinion the combat and the fighting, and that's where you get a lot of the graphics, and that's what I like to see about it.
Yeah, exactly. You like to see what you do conveyed in a way in this game, not just like, we've seen other ones where it doesn't have the right feeling of the way it looks for attack wise, but this game really shines in that manner.
100%. I think you just nailed it right there. Like it shines in what it was attempting to do, and
Mhm.
also every character is like they're monsters, but some of them are just like fucking adorable. That has nothing to do with anything. Like they're just really fucking cute.
Right? Yeah.
They're just like
They
little pixel caterpillars or like little acorn people or like a blob.
Yeah.
Like it's good shit. It's cute, it's adorable, and it's really well animated.
Yeah, there's some definitely super adorable creatures in this as much as there is like a couple of mean looking ones. Most of them are pretty much cuter than you'd expect, like, and I kind of like that element too.
Yeah, I feel like it allows a level of accessibility to your monsters or the monsters that you're fighting. Like,
Hmm.
but another thing that when, it is pixel art, but like it's really well defined. Like the animations are like when we talked about previous games on the channel, like where the pixel art is like very fluid. Like if there's flames, like it looks really fluid. If there's lightning, it looks really fluid. Everything looks very well defined and animated. It doesn't look like staticky or blocky at all.
Yeah, exactly. Even though everything is pretty much still when you're fighting in this game, it looks like there's a lot of movement, even though you're standing still, which is
Exactly.
hard to
Hard to
pull
do.
off. Yeah.
Yeah, they did a really good job with it. Awesome. Well, I think that covers everything I want to talk about with graphics. Honestly, it's pretty
Yeah.
fast.
I mean, yeah, like I said, background wise, you're gonna see your typical like open fields, caves, like moss, fire areas, that kind of stuff. But they're all each beautifully done background wise too. We just definitely the thing that shines most of all is what we were talking about. So
Definitely. All right. Well, we'll move on to sounds and music.
Sounds and music.
I know you usually go pretty hard into sounds and music, but this game did not wow me at all in that aspect because it
mhm.
it was really like a very minute part of the game. I mean, there's a handful of beats that loop. That's pretty much it.
Yeah,
There's not anything you can say about it. Not that it's bad. It does not provide any negativity to the game. I don't think that they needed it to go hard in this game, to be honest. The
right.
boss fight music sounds like generic boss fight music. The battle music sounds like generic battle music. It's not defined in any way, but it's what you need in the moment, and it's literally just like it's fundamentally very easy and gets the job done.
Right. It's good. It's like, it's solidly like you did your work. You turned in a solid B minus. That ain't nothing
Yeah,
to be like sad about, but could have stepped it up that bit. There's room for improvement.
exactly. There could be room for improvement, but I'm not complaining about it at all.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I will say it's definitely one of those sounds and music wise where you're gonna like listen to the game for about the first hour, hour and a half, and then you're probably gonna throw a show on in the background to like watch while you play it. It's one of those great background kind of games. That's why I love playing this on my Switch. Honestly, it's what I
Oh
do.
yeah, it's a great game for just like it's exactly what you do with Pokemon. Like we're gonna compare it to Pokemon, like Tom said a million times. It
Hmm.
is a different variation of Pokemon that I actually liked a lot more. But
Yeah,
you're gonna use it in the same circumstance. Like you're gonna use it when you're watching TV, when you got nothing else going on, when you're taking a shit, when you're in a car. Like as long as you're not driving, or I guess if you want to die, you could do it. But but it's like anytime you play Pokemon, you play this game. So the music didn't really bug me. It didn't wow me. It didn't impress me, but it did not bug me, and it did not take away from the game itself.
yeah, exactly. Like it's solid, and what's there is good. It just if they would have done a bit more with it, it could have been so much better. It's what you expect out of your generic ones.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
definitely. And I don't really honestly have anything more to say. Usually I go pretty hard into the sound, but there's not
Hmm.
really much to discuss about it. It's
Right.
okay. It's all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. We get spoiled by some music in games though, for real. But you can tell when someone really took their time for like hold on one sec, guys. I mean, you can really tell.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I
Sorry.
can. I just
Apparently my headset or my camera died, so I'm gonna just continue without a camera. I'm just gonna do it with sound. Sorry, guys.
Okay, yeah, that's all I was wondering. That's why I paused for a sec. I seen you disappear. I was like, okay, we're having a little bit
that
of
was the first.
technical.
Yeah, that was the first time we've had technical difficulties ever. Whatever, it'll happen. But yeah, essentially, I don't know what you were saying. Sorry, that was all I wanted to say about Sounds of Music. I don't know if that's gonna happen again. I don't know what that was. Sorry. I'm
Yeah,
actually gonna
no,
write
it's
down the
all
time
good.
that happened and cut it out of the actual podcast. Sorry. Where the frick is my notepad? Notepad. Never had a technical difficulty before.
Yeah, that is definitely our first one right there. Lost my train of thought a bit, but that's okay. We pretty much covered all we wanted to about Sound of Music. Like I said, you're probably gonna be watching like a show in the background or something while you play this, So
Definitely. All right. Well, with that being said, let's move on to features and content.
Features and content.
So I think the most important thing that I have to say about features and content, and the part that I arguably enjoyed the most about this game specifically was the Metroidvania aspect and how because like I was never a huge Pokemon fan, and I know we keep comparing it to Pokemon because that's the thing that it's comparable to, but I was never a huge Pokemon fan. It never really was my thing. But with this, the thing that changed that was the adventure and exploration and the Metroidvania feels because instead of like finding items in the world to help you like get past certain points, like we all know that the classic Pokemon thing where like, oh, there's a tree blocking your path, you better teach a Pokemon a TM cut to get through it. Ooh, that's so exciting. Instead of that, your Pokemon stay out with you in the game. Like if I have a Pokemon attached, or not a Pokemon, sorry, a monster attached to me, it'll stay out with me and wander with me, and then I can use that monster's special ability in the real world. Like one of my favorites was like the flying Pokemon, or I keep saying Pokemon, sorry, flying monsters. You can actually like they'll actually like lift you up and carry you places instead of like if you're like if there's a ledge that's a little too high up for you to double jump to or whatever, your bird monster can pick you up and bring you to that ledge. Like you actually get to use your monsters for their intended purposes, and I think that that's a really cool way to do it.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's really satisfying to get like a new monster that you haven't got yet and figure out he has a new ability that's actually going to open a lot of different directions for you in this game. Like you find in Metroidvania games like basically like Metroid when you find like a different item used for traversal and whatnot. Like tons of them in that game that do them. It's the same with every single monster you find here. Some are definitely the same abilities, but for the most part, there's a lot of different ones that help you with traversal, and that's really a cool selling point on this game.
Yeah, it lets you actually feel like, oh, I have to collect all these monsters to see if there's going to be, something that helps me get to a new place in the game or unlocks a new, level or something like that. It makes you actually, because like I never felt the need to go out of my way to collect every single Pokemon. I felt the need to go out of my way to collect every single monster in this game.
Right.
And I think that's a really interesting selling point, like you said, is the fact that you could just like it unlocks so much. It allows you to backtrack and be like, oh, I couldn't get on the ledge before, or I couldn't, break that block before. Oh, I couldn't, move that boulder before. Like, there's so many things that you can do to change out and re-explore. And I think that was the really cool aspect that, for me, Pokemon was missing that this game covered perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. It's in the style of play it is, like they really took something a Metroidvania game hasn't quite done yet, especially to like this extent, and just really nailed that element to this game. Like it's definitely the main feature of this game. Like it's definitely the exploring for me. Like I love adventure games. Like that's my bread and butter, especially indie adventure games where everything like it's explorable. Like this and Hollow Knight, any Metroidvania, and this one really nails that kind of thing where some fall flat.
I
Hey, you're
came back.
back.
Yeah, I figured it out. Sorry. I can't guarantee that would happen again though. But anyways, I totally agree with what you're saying, and I think we're on the same page that the exploration is. I would say that for me, it's secondary in this game. Like for sure, the thing that takes the cake is the monsters and the battling and that
Mhm.
stuff, which we're about to talk about, guys. I know you're waiting for it, but the exploration is secondary to me because the battling is first. So with that being said,
Yeah.
let's talk about battling, and I'll let you take this one.
All right. So, this game, unlike Pokemon, is actually fought in a 3x3 kind of format, which actually adds a lot of different dynamics for the team kind of build you want to do, which is really cool. Like at least for fighting monsters, there's definitely more battles in the game later that are actually like you get to use like your whole team, which is like 5-on-5 or 6-on-6 sometimes, like in keeper battles, kind of like Pokemon battles. God, we're gonna make too many ties here.
I mean, that
But
they're very similar. There's no way you can avoid talking about Pokemon because it's gonna be, it's like, you imagine talking about like you're talking about margarine, you got to mention butter. Like it's the same
right,
fucking thing. Like
right, yeah. I can't even get away with it. I can't believe it's not butter. Like exactly.
I can't believe it's not Pokemon.
Yeah, like fucking basically, like
Pretty much, dude.
that's the feel of battling in this game. But what I like is the versus Pokemon is it's all 3v3, which adds in like I said that team aspect of how you want to fight and how you want to target people and which abilities stack nice together and what types you're fighting. It can be a mixed bag or it can be all one type, and it really adds like a nice area of not only difficulty, I think, and um but like just a different flavor with every battle. Like you're not gonna go in with like the same Pokemon every time to face like the same creature, because sometimes you'll actually, even though that's the powerful one, it's better to use a different team against them because of other creatures, and that's really cool. So it's like a ever constant changing battle system, even though it's really simple.
Yeah, it's very simple to learn but impossible to perfect, and also it changes rapidly based on what you want to play. Like experimentation was a huge part of this game that I really like too. Like sure, I may really like this monster, but like later I may need to swap it out for another monster because that monster has a better status effect with my two other monsters I'm already using. Like your team building skills are going to grow and divide and change and multiply in so many ways that you're not even going to perceive until you're actually in the game and playing it. Like I'm sure that there's certain parts in the game, like if we're talking about like the last two battles in the game, there's parts
Hmm.
that make you want to like go online and just like Google like, okay, what's the best build to get rid of this battle because this is fucking impossible. But most of the time, it's gonna feel fun and like floaty and easy and enjoyable. Not to say that it doesn't get progressively more difficult as the game goes on, but most of the things you're gonna run into in like the open world Metroidvania, it's like when you're playing again Pokemon and you're walking through grass and a Pokemon approaches you and you obviously have to fight them. Except in this one, they're just out in the open, and if you touch them, you have to fight them. So it's got a lot of the same aspects, but also you got to try to balance how you want your team to work, what kind of effects you want to do. Maybe I want a tank, maybe I want a melee, maybe I want a mage. Like you can balance all that and figure out what you like, what you don't like, and what's going to work for you, and then change your team on the fly to do that. And I think that's a really cool and interesting concept to add to a Metroidvania.
Yeah, like there's a few things I really like about combat. One, once you're outside of like a battle, you don't have to worry about like re-healing everyone in your party. I think that's great because you're constantly going to be in a new match battling, and it'd be impossible in this style, I think, to progress without that and keep it as fun as it is.
Hmm.
Um, like there's definitely a few key things. There is a little bit of things I don't like about the combat though too. Is one, sometimes it feels like it goes on forever. Like I will
Yeah, it
say,
can be really
like
grindy.
yeah,
Yeah.
like sometimes it's like it's okay, like, um it'll go on for like 10 moves and you're like, "Okay, I just want this battle to be done." And versus like a game like Pokemon where sometimes it's just one hit, like fucking it's like why can no game find a balance
Yeah,
with like
it's
all
a
of
hard
these
dynamic.
creatures,
It's a hard
like
dynamic to me. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, man, if they just took like maybe a turn or two less of like hits sometimes, because sometimes, like I said, it's just impossible to like. It feels like to actually get through this game, and thank God for like being able to speed up like the attack sequences and stuff. Like you can go in and just change like all the visuals to like 8 times as fast, so you don't have to sit through as much of it. But still, like I said, sometimes it feels like it goes on for a bit long.
Agreed. Yeah, 100%. Um, with that being said, I guess we can move into the monsters themselves. That's a really, really good point to hit.
Hmm.
So this is the other major factor that I think a lot of people are gonna be interested in the game for is the the dynamic range of monsters. I think there's like over 100. I don't quote me on that. They could have added more. I don't even know. But there when I played it, there was definitely over 100, and each one is generally pretty different. Just like with Pokemon, everything is generally pretty different, or it's the same monster with a different elemental effect. Like for instance, there's blobs in this game, and there's like your generic blob, and then there's like elemental blobs that go off it. It's like having an Eevee, you know? It's they change, but also there's some really, and this is what really got me into the game, incredibly unique monsters in this game that I haven't seen in a lot of other places and that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, like there's let's see, a full list. I think, yeah, like you said, it's about 100. Oh, now it's over with DLC ones and all that
Yeah, I figured.
stuff. But there's a lot of really cool ones. Like I think my personal favorite is called like I can never pronounce the same, so it's like a cult or something, but he's basically like a killer whale with legs. And it's just it's fucking weird, but I kind of love it. Like it's just
My absolute favorite was Cat Zerker. It's just a cat with a sword.
yeah, Cat Zerker is pretty great. I think
I
there's
loved it.
another there's another cat. Like I definitely love the cuteness element in this game with like all the creatures, you know. Some are definitely look a bit meaner, but not in like a super mean way. You're gonna come across more like kind of ditzy, funny looking creatures, but it's really cool, you know. They're not going for anything too evil, you know.
No, yeah, it's all very cutesy and very approachable, and I really like that about it. It just made it made finding them and playing it a lot more fun. Um, that being said, this is totally random, but today to promote this podcast, I made a quick image, and it was like the old fashioned like from the show, like who's that Pokemon? You know, when they'd go to commercial and it'd be like a shadowed out version of that Pokemon, and you'd guess when you come back after break. So I made that for this today, and the Pokemon or the monster that I used was Cat Zerker.
Oh
And I was
my
like, "What
god.
game are we talking about today?" And I thought it was really funny. I made it. I came up with it in like 3 seconds. I was like, "Shit, I gotta promote this tonight. How am I gonna do that?"
Yeah, like oh man, that was so cool when you sent that to me. I was like, yeah, that's a perfect thing for this game because it totally fits, you know, like
Yeah, and like we've been talking about the whole night, you can't avoid the similarities between it and the biggest game in the genre. Just like when we talked about VHS, you can't avoid Dead by Daylight. They're
yeah,
very similar. You can't avoid Pokemon with this game,
yeah,
and they're in some ways they're interchangeable, but in the ways that matters, they're not.
yeah.
And yeah,
Unlike Pokemon, the just traversal and everything about the Metroidvania element is like the most different thing in this game comparatively to any turn-based game you've played. Like this is more that modern Metroidvania feel you're looking for, you know.
yeah. I'm gonna skip around a little bit on our outline
Hmm.
just because I have a couple things I wanted to add about the monsters.
Yeah,
Specifically, the thing that is the most daunting, or at least for me, was the most daunting about the monsters, and the thing that fully I think separates it from Pokemon. This is where I really draw the line that makes it a completely different game in my eyes. Is that when you get a monster. You open up your, your inventory or whatever, your menu, and you look at the monster. They have like a Diablo style skill tree, like it's fucking insane. You got to like
yeah,
take you look at it and you're like, am I in a fucking math class right now? Like this is actually insane. I got a college degree faster than it took me to figure out the skill tree aspect of this game. And on top of that, they can all have their own items and inventory as well added on. So when we say that it's fully customizable and totally like even if you have a party with like 4 blobs, every blob could be wildly different based on the skill tree and items that you give it, which makes it more of like an RPG in my mind a little bit, but
yeah,
it really added to the flavor of the game itself. And I think that that's something that it kills it on. Like it sounds complicated and weird, but the second you actually start playing it and like getting really into it, it's super, super good.
right. All the minor mechanics really add to the major of this game that separate it. You know, it's like yeah, basically like Sean was saying, it's an RPG but with creatures, you know, like Pokemon, but far more advanced on the mechanics it uses, I think, you know. it's definitely not basic in any regard, and that just scratches the surface. Because then you go into like feeding them too, which adds different stats and passives and stuff. Like it's really crazy to honestly get into all the micro things that this game does to make it be right and sets it apart.
I think another aspect I like about this game is that you don't catch your monsters, which is like another. We're talking about we talk about how much it's like Pokemon. But I'm also trying to find the key things that separate it out, and the inventory and skill tree system was a huge part of that for me. But another thing that separates it is that you don't catch your monsters. You get into battles and you totally fucking kill the other monsters, and then there's a chance that that monster will drop an egg which
Yep.
hatches into that monster you just killed, which is like really helpful because then you don't have to worry about like, oh, I have to carry around like Pokeballs and there's like a chance that I won't catch this thing or blah blah. There's this really epic monster that I might be able to catch. They have a chance to drop an egg. It's so much easier, so light, so simple. I wish all games were that simple in the aspect that matter, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like getting a monster definitely feels worthwhile, especially like there's like the star rating system, which I mean, there's a lot of things just we're gonna gloss over a bit, but like basically with like the star rating system in this game, you have like a higher chance of getting like stuff like that, like a monster egg for a new creature, or higher like kind of loot and stuff like that. Just like every battle you win, you're going to get like 1 to 5 stars, and that's going to determine what you get from each battle, which is how you obtain monster eggs, And
Yeah, the loot is varied depending on how well you did in the battle, which makes sense because
yeah,
it wants you to. It prioritizes the game system, combat system prioritizes you ending combat as fast as possible and efficiently as possible, which is why a lot of people, team building matters in this game a lot, which people are super into. I'm not crazy into that usually. I still had a really good time with it in this game.
yeah, like it's really cool and done really well with all the monsters.
Yeah, definitely. Did you want to jump into? I know you said you wanted to talk about the design contest.
Yeah, like what was really cool about like all the monsters in this game, or at least some of them, was there was like a design contest for each one of these. So when the Kickstarter kind of first began, and they had other, I think one more later, but there was like 5 design contests where people would just draw up kind of like a character they want, or kind of like come up with one, and the actual like lead developers would actually go through and kind of pick the best. It was done on a voting system, Twitter and all that, how a lot of people vote on things and other platforms, I'm guessing. But basically, the developers went through the highest picked ones and actually put them into the game. And they didn't just put like 1 or 2. I think there's like about 20 in this game that like through contests that they put in, and each one is actually really cool and done really well, and definitely doesn't feel shoehorned into the game.
Definitely, it feels like they actually tried and made a good attempt to connect with their audience when they were making things. And seeing developers do that is a huge reason why I think both of us love indie games. Is that they are reaching out to the people who are going to be funding the game and saying, "Hey, like, what do you guys actually want in this? Like, let's make sure we deliver on what you want." And I'd like to see more of that. You're never going to get that from AAA studio. AAA studios don't give a shit about you. Indie devs do it all the time, though, and it's super refreshing to see. You know, them actually put those things into the game, like you're saying.
Yeah, like it's really cool, and most of them are pretty original. Like I think my favorite was like Plague Egg or something. It's just like this little plague bird inside of a plague doctor bird inside of an egg. It's so cute. Like
I love
it,
that.
yeah, like it was really cool to include like just people in your community into something that you're building. That's definitely top in indie, and that's why I love this community in general.
Yeah. With that being said, not all battles are going to be easy, like we were talking about earlier. In a
Hmm.
normal battle, it's a 3v3. There are some exceptions to that, such as trainer battle, or well, not trainer battles, keeper battles, which are more like trainer battles in Pokemon, which we talked about briefly. But there's also going to be incredibly hard battles that you can just come across, with something called champion monsters. They're basically just like a really hard version of the monsters that are already in the game.
Yeah.
And they're harder to defeat, they're harder to battle. You got to be on your shit when you fight them, and it makes a lot of this game is pretty easy. You can float through it. The story is not a big deal. it's pretty breezy. But like, there's certain parts in the game that do challenge you, and if you're not paying attention, you will lose. And I think that that's a really cool dynamic. Is that like champion monsters and trade or keeper battles really keep you on your toes.
Yeah, like, oh man, those some of those champion battles, most of the time, like if you're high enough level, they're pretty easy, but even still, like I really like them because they're definitely different and they're hard to complete. But I will say along the same lines again of taking forever to battle. These are the longest battles in the game, and they go on for probably a good 4 minutes too long.
Yeah, yeah, it's
um,
just like what we were talking about when you said, one thing you didn't like was that sometimes the battles go on too long. Yeah, the champion battles are definitely the epitome of that. While they are interesting and really cool, they do feel like they go on for fucking ever.
Yep. What I do really like about them, comparatively to the rest of the game, that's random loot, is this loot actually drops. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. But the loot there is actually sectioned off for each character wise. So like,
Mhm.
what you're gonna do is you're gonna get 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, and 5 star ratings, and determining on which one you get versus the rest of it, it determines on what you're able to get. The 5 star is definitely the egg, which is incentivizes why you want to beat it at 5 stars, and it's nice because you can actually reface those champions later if you want. In the tower, you'll be able to unlock that. So no matter what, you'll be able to get the egg later, provided you can get the 5 star on there. You're not going to be able even to get the first like boss 5 star, I think, until like midway through the game because they're really hard.
It's
Some of
really
those.
difficult, yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of just like more about the game, if you wanted to talk about more into the lore or like places in the game, yeah, I know you wanted to talk about like the familiars, right?
Yeah, like that is definitely like really cool. So like basically like, Pokemon you kind of start out and you kind of pick a character. It kind of feels like the same in this game, but unlike just picking like those basic three, you pick these spectral familiars which have been passed down basically through your family from like decades and decades, one monster keeper to the other. But like unlike Pokemon, these are basically like legendary creatures that started the whole monster sanctuary altogether. So like there's the wolf that came in and he created all the forests and mountains, or the toad that made every body of water like the lakes and the rivers. The lion created even the strongholds that like all the monster keepers live and like then there's even like the eagle, and he created like a miniature sun. Not even gonna lie, a fucking miniature sun to like bring light and warmth to like the sun temple, which actually brought peace to like the monster sanctuary all in all. So actually the monster you pick at the very beginning has a lot of deep lore evolved just in like this game, and I really like how they tied that together on like any they didn't have to do that, and that's a
Yeah.
really cool thing that they did.
Like when you look at like I know a lot of people when they play Pokemon, they pick their starter based on what type they think is gonna be more effective later in the game. Don't get me wrong, the Spectral Familiars have like types, like they have like 2 types each or something like that. But
Right,
like I don't think that weighed into my decision at all. It was like, who do I think is like the neatest? Like who
right.
did a cool thing? And I think I ended up like going with the wolf because of basic, but on second playthrough, I'll probably go with the eagle, honestly, because he sounds baller as hell.
Yeah, I had to go Toad because I seen a Toad and was like, "Fuck yeah, Toads!" Like,
Oh yeah, and I think that that's super neat. It adds a like you said a whole new level to the game. That's not just ooh what's going to benefit me the most. You can metagame this game, but I feel like it really takes out a large part of it because while the story is not immaculate, it is good. I will say it is good.
yeah, like it's really cool because like it very highlights very slightly like in this game, but Monster Sanctuary is actually like a sanctuary. Like think of it like that. So the rest of the world outside of this is not like this place. Like they basically call it like the old world outside of that, which is like where the alchemists later in this game come later in because they got banished from there. So they came into the monster sanctuary and actually wanted to wage war on the old world and use the power of the monster sanctuary to take it down. There's some very deep dark lore in this game that really is very briefly describe, but when you dig into it, man, does it get kind of messed up. Like,
Yeah, like they give you that kind of straight away. Like it's not like that's like hidden lore or anything. They kind of give you that pretty early into the game, and
Yeah.
like, but it's not like, but really the focus of the game is the battling and
Yeah.
the Metroidvania buffs. But like then they're like, but here's also some lore. So it's like usually in other games where like lore can be grindy, story can be grindy, it can be not fun. In this game, I feel like they did it in a really well executed fashion where they were just like, oh hey, like here's a really good combat system, here's a really good Metroidvania. Also, here's some decent lore. Like,
right? Yeah, I was like not expecting like lore out of this game, much alone from just monsters, and that branches off into like the entire story of this game. Like, so I went on a bit of a tangent. Like, but that's really crazy that like a game that's so cute and has such cute monsters, and you don't expect anything like that from like you expect kind of that basic Pokemon story. It is not that, at all, and that's
no, it
really
definitely
refreshing.
has. Yeah, it definitely has its own take on a lot of things. It has its own world that you can fall deeply in love with, or you can just skim over. Honestly, you don't have to be super involved in the lore in this. Don't get me wrong. You're gonna have to play through the story because that's the way to progress through the game. Like you have to go through and defeat, the alchemists, like we were talking about, do the trainer battles essentially, and to progress throughout the story. You have to do that. But you don't have to be interested in the lore. You can just be like, this is just a sick battle and never
Right.
have to think about it again.
Right, exactly. Like it's pretty cool that you can just skip all like some games, you just want to skip over the story. This one you won't be missing too much, but like I said, it's just randomly in a game that looks so bright and cute. Like it just has like some of the darkest story elements I think I've seen. Like fucking
No, I agree. I think that's something that did keep me from getting super into the story, which I'll probably talk about when we talk about our favorite and not favorite thing was
Mhm.
that the characters are not super 3D. Like, and I don't mean that because it's a 2D game. I mean, like, they don't have a lot of personality behind them. They're the basic stereotypes you would think when you think of like an NPC or a player character. Like, you are the chosen one of your family to take up this mantle. Like, or like, I'm an NPC and I'm a shopkeeper. Like, they're very 2D. Don't get me wrong, but the lore of the actual game is a lot better than the characters. And I think that's what offsets me, that I still was interested in hearing about the lore and listening to it and getting involved in it, but I didn't care if my character was there or not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the character could come or go, but honestly, I think I was more connected with like the spectral, the first first monster you got, than I was my character.
Yeah, I mean literally if you look up the hero, I think on the Wikipedia page, it's like and he like says nothing and just goes around. I'm like, man, that's pretty accurate. Like fucking he's just a vessel for which you to control. Like there's really
Yeah, just he's a machine for you to get through the game.
yeah, basically like
I think that was one of my big gripes about just like it has really good lore, but like they didn't do anything for your character specifically or any of the NPCs that really stood out to me.
yeah.
But there's so many good things about this game, like we previously have already mentioned a million times. I'm not going to backtrack and talk about all of them, but we've
Mhm.
already mentioned so many good things about this game that like I will accept that as the pretty much one of the only negatives I can find.
Yeah, like it's just a little bit lackluster, but still good. Still good.
Still good. What what else do you want to talk about in features of content? I'll let you run
um
this one.
Let's see. I think we've touched a little bit like on like definitely the equipment you can kind of get. So like not only do you get like these monsters, but getting into it, you can give them like unlike Pokemon where you get like maybe like one accessory and a lot of people it's just kind of useless. This you actually need to equip weapons to each of your monsters. You can equip up to 3 accessories. So based on your play style for each one, like you're gonna want like a different kind of just loadout. Particularly some I really like high crit chance because your abilities actually will trigger things based on crit chance, and that's like really cool. Or you can go mana regen. There's a lot of options that way.
That's what I did on Cat Zerker. I just gave it all the crit stuff that it could have, and it was like critting every hit. And I was like, "Yeah, fucking love Cat Zerker!" Like I was
Yeah.
getting so amped about it.
Yeah, Crit Cat Zerker is a really nice build because like his crits actually cause like different abilities to go off too, and it's just it gets fucking intense. Like
And that's why the team building aspect is so neat, because there are a billion options and you get to figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you, what you are going to put on your team and what you're not going to put on your team, like, and you can change it at any time, and change, like you load out a totally different people and figure out if things have what am I trying to say, synergy. There's a lot of synergy involved, which is interesting too. Because like in Pokemon, and I know we're just gonna keep comparing it to it, man, but there's not really anything else we can, that I know of, anyways. But in Pokemon, like it's usually like one to maybe two people in a battle. Like you're never battling with a full team or like three people, where all of their things stack on each other and work in different ways. And I think that's really cool and interesting.
yeah, like it really becomes worthwhile to invest in the team route you want to go, like it, and making sure that each of your creatures work well in tangent with the other, not just based on the abilities, not just based on what creature type you have, but like equipment wise. Like there's so many minor things that you think you'll just kind of gloss over at first that become like major little details in this game that's worth learning and feels worth learning, unlike other games where you can kind of push it aside. This feels worthwhile to learn.
Yeah, and learning is kind of a loaded word, because it doesn't feel like learning at the end of it. Like once you get like, oh, I can have accessories, oh, there's skill tree, it seems really daunting at first. Like I said, when I got my first monster and I opened it up my inventory and I saw, holy shit, what is this massive Diablo skill tree? In reality, once you take like a minute to look at it, you're like, oh, okay, I kind of get it now. But like, it seems really daunting at first, but the playthrough is actually a lot easier than I anticipated for someone like me who's not very detail oriented.
Yeah, like along the same lines as like all the team building and whatnot, there's also what was I gonna put here? The food that goes into each of your characters. So like based just sheerly on, you'll come across food in chests, and at first you're like, what the hell? Why do I have food? And you realize you can feed your creatures, and like the past 3 meals you use on them also add buffs to your characters. So like that adds just a whole another level on top of the system they already had. It's like we said, all the minor things add into the major things of the team building aspect, and it all works beautifully together, honestly.
I think what I like about the food and equipment aspects are, you can spend the whole time not using food and you can just equip stuff and get through the game. Believe me, I did it. But once you realize that you also have food, it allows like such another like level. You're like, oh shit, like now if I know I put all my crit on this guy, so I could add more crit with food, or I could, like, I notice he's like losing his health fast, let's give him, an apple that lets him regen faster. Like you can fill in the little, it's like an extra little tweak. They're very minimal effects, but you can tweak small things that you don't like about your team build, which I think is super interesting and unique as well, because it's like this game stacks on stacks on stacks. Once you think you know something, it stacks another level on you that you get to learn. But even if you don't learn it, you can probably still get through the game until the very end.
Yeah, like there's still mechanics that come into play up to like late mid game in this, and like that's really cool because it never feels like overwhelming, but it doesn't feel underwhelming. It feels
You're
like
never bored.
yeah, it'll always teach you a little bit of something new to keep the game fresh all the way almost up until the end. You feel like you're learning new tactics throughout the entire experience of this game.
Definitely. Was there anything else you want to talk about?
Let me just see here. I
Yeah, take a look at
mean,
Gala.
yeah, I think the one thing we didn't cover is there is evolution like
Oh yeah.
Pokemon in this game. But the evolution is a lot different than Pokemon. So you need to get these things from typically either creatures that are evolved forms of the ones you have, or the champion monsters, and they're called catalysts. So you have to bring them to a specific area in the game, which is like this. I think it's like a tree out in the middle of like the ancient woods. Yeah, it's insane, but unlike Pokemon, it's not just like you're gonna evolve and it's gonna boost all your stats wildly. It is actually more of like an altered version of like the kind of thing you're using at the time. So instead of like maybe being a tanky build, it might be more of an attack build, or it might be more of a mage build. It's like a different variation on the same creature, which is really cool depending on the play style you want to do with them.
Yeah, it's a very interesting take on evolution. I agree with that completely.
Yeah, like it wasn't just evolution for the sake of making a creature better just to make it better. It feels like tactical to evolve your creature. It's not something you necessarily even sometimes want to do. It feels optional, but in a good way.
Yeah, it feels like, again, this game is all about giving you choice from your team build to the items to everything, and evolution was no stranger to that as well. Like, it definitely felt optional, but felt fun, and like I could do it if I want, but I don't necessarily have to.
Yeah, and I mean we could go on and on about the mechanics in this game. There's even like light and dark things you can get eventually, and that's a whole another thing to like change your creatures from like light mode or dark mode, or keep them in their neutral state. Like there's a lot of just it throws so many things at you, but it feels so good every time you get one.
Yeah, you definitely get to learn a lot, but not feel like you're learning. It feels like you're actually going on a journey, like you're playing a game and enjoying where you are. And another thing I love about this game, and that's just something I want to say, is that just like Pokemon, you get to name all your monsters.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Because like if you couldn't name your monsters, who gave a shit, right?
Yeah. What was that cat creature again? I can't think of his freaking.
Cat Zerker.
Yeah, I named him Meowton, and I thought that was just a great pun. Like, not gonna lie, I was like, yeah.
I named mine after my cat.
I
To be
mean,
fair, okay. When I was playing this, because as everyone who's on this podcast knows, I stream, and when I was playing it, I was naming a lot of the monsters after what either chat wanted me to name them after, or chat. Like, if I was like, "Hey, who wants to be, this bird monster?" and they'd be like, "Me," and I'd be like, "Okay, well, this is your name now." Like that was something I was doing. That was really fun, and if anyone's watched like Pokemon streams, a lot of streamers do that as well. But it also felt really good with this game. Like, this is a stream wise, this is a total side note. Stream wise, if you want to play a game with an incredibly welcoming community that will actually get viewers in who watch you play the game, even if you suck at it, this is a great option. You'll be in like the top 3 anytime you stream it because it's not a huge community.
mhm,
So,
yeah.
side note about that.
Yeah, like one other thing I want to touch about was like there is like a lot of NPCs in this game, but like RPG wise, they feel a little bit more stale than you would kind of think in like other
Yeah.
games. Like it's kind of your basic NPCs you're gonna run into, and none just really kind of stand out, text wise. It's like none of them really have like a personality, like you'd figure in like an RPG. Like you'd go up to someone and sometimes you can tell they're a bit more of a comedian, or sometimes they're a bit more serious. Everyone just kind of has a
Flat.
bland. Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone comes off flat a bit. That's all. It's like I think the only one is like maybe like the old man, and that's like one character in the game,
Or like
like
your I don't know if it's not your rival, the guy that like follows you around. I forgot
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, like that guy. You're I don't even know I forgot his name. But there's like a couple that are noteworthy, but most of the time it's just gonna be flat, two-dimensional characters. With that being said, this game does not define itself as an RPG. I want to make that very clear.
Yeah.
I'm putting that label on it because I feel like it has a lot of the elements, and that's my own personal opinion. This game defines itself as a monster catching Metroidvania. Like
Yeah,
that's what they define it as. So
Yep, exactly. It's like I just had to touch on it a bit because it does involve RPG elements, like especially
Mhm.
combat wise. This combat wise is perfectly Pokemon mixed with JRPG, and it's
Yeah.
kind of great in that manner. So I had to touch a little bit on the RPG aspect of like NPCs just coming off. If they just had a little bit more personality, that would have been cooler, but they didn't really need it.
They didn't need it. Yeah, that's not what the game's about, and that's very clear.
Yeah. Like
Awesome. Well, was there anything else you want to talk about features and content? Because I'm pretty good with that.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more. We've pretty much covered a lot of it without getting to like the very minor. I mean, like Unless he wants to talk like particular stats on weapons, which I'm pretty sure we don't want to bore you to death with that.
Yeah,
I think
it's
we've given
something
you a
that
pretty good overview of what you'd expect.
yeah, it's something that like if you want to pick it apart, just play the game and pick it apart yourself because we're not gonna do it for you. Like there's a million different stats, there's a million different status effects, there's a bunch of different monsters, and that's the beautiful thing about it. There's a lot you can do in this game, but I want people to actually get it and explore it. I think that that's the most important thing to
Yeah.
take from it.
Yeah, you're gonna have a good amount of fun with this game. Like if you enjoy Pokemon, if you enjoy JRPGs, if you enjoy Metroidvania games, just give this one a try. Like
Yeah.
it's different than all of those wrapped into a really good burrito. Like
What is with you and food?
I don't know. I'm gonna keep making food references. Like
That's Tom's thing now. Well,
like,
let's move it into closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts.
I totally forgot to do movement and controls. But honestly, it just feels like a basic Metroidvania, like
mhm.
full on. Like it's just like I used a controller to play it. It was easy. It didn't feel overwhelming. Like there's platforming in this game. It's not overwhelmingly difficult. It's just enough to keep you interested and have fun with it.
Yeah, I think the cool thing that comes from the movement and controls in this game definitely comes from each monster because like they add their own element onto some of the movement. Like some of them are used for swimming, some are used for like flying, some are like levitate. There's a lot of different monster abilities in this game that add to like I guess like the movement, which is really cool. That's where the movement really shines in this game and stands
As like
outside of.
yeah, it's its own thing. I've never seen it like we talked like I talked about earlier. Where like you have to get a TM and then your Pokemon comes out for 20 seconds to cut a tree and then leaves again. Like that's stupid. Like I want my Pokemon to physically care, which they're starting to do in the later games. They are starting to do in the later games of Pokemon, but we're
Yeah.
not talking about Pokemon. The thing that really stood out to me about this is that I actually get to use my monsters and feel like they're actually being helpful in the open world around me, and that's the movement part that was enjoyable. The actual just like basic movement in it, it just feels like a normal Metroidvania platformer.
Yeah, like it's nice, smooth. Like the jumps feel nice and on point. You're never gonna have a problem with the controls. They're your basic, typical ones. But yeah, the outside, the monster source is definitely the cool part of the movement in this game.
Awesome. Well, we are going to go into closing thoughts because I mentioned that. So for closing thoughts, where would you put this on a replayability like scale?
Let's see. I would probably play it like at least one more time. Like I probably put around that 7.5 range. Honestly, I think some people replay this twice. Other people maybe not. It depends on how into these kind of games you are. I've gotten through one playthrough and I've kind of just done a second playthrough, but it's more like a game I'll pick up and put down. So.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, I got through one playthrough. I liked it. I had a really good time with it. I don't feel the need to play it again. I think that people who really like Pokemon, really like competitive team building stuff, will love to replay this because like there's a lot of different aspects you can choose. There's a lot of skill trees. There's a lot of items. There's a lot of monsters. Like go wild, make a bunch of teams, have a lot of fun. And then also I think that there's a multiplayer like fighting mode as well. So like that's pretty fun too. It's like battling online, and if you go into the player call or whatever it's called, the keeper's place, there's like a online battle system as well. I don't know how active it is. I don't keep up with it, but it gives another option for replayability in my eyes.
Yeah, like it's nice in that regard. Like people who are diehard into this kind of game will find replayability. Otherwise, you probably won't replay it, but it's definitely worth at least a full playthrough, if not more.
For sure, yeah. I probably would give it another playthrough. If I put it on my Switch or something, I'd probably play it again.
Yeah, like it's one of those perfect games for Switch.
I think we said that about pretty much every game we've reviewed on this.
That's because any games just work perfectly on that, or a Steam Deck if you
Yeah.
got one of those.
Where do you put this on a scale of 1 to 10 for fun factor?
Probably a good 8. I really like I said, it's all the minor things that they do in this game that add to the fun of this game. Like everything, no matter what, it feels fresh. Like from the beginning to like mid late game, it's fresh on like everything from movement to combat to things it adds in this game. it's really nice on keeping you involved and making everything feel good.
Yeah, I think I'd agree completely. I think I put it at an 8. I had a really good time with it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the parts. Pretty much all. There was nothing I directly just like didn't like, honestly. So I put it at an 8, and I really enjoyed streaming it too. I'm gonna bring that aspect up because that's a huge part of my life, and I think that if you are a streamer, you're looking for something new, just to get out of your usual COD funk or something weird. Play this game. Honestly, when I was playing it, like 4 people bought it because they saw me playing it and having such a good time that they bought it and then streamed it and also had a good time and grew their communities. And I think that's really neat. I think that speaks for itself on the fact that it's enjoyable to watch, it's enjoyable to play, and you can have a lot of fun with it. But you have to make it your own. Because just going in and thinking like, oh, this is going to be Pokemon, it's not going to be Pokemon. It's something totally different. It's its own thing. We made a lot of comparisons to Pokemon, but it's its own thing, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, like this is really that fresh breath that Pokemon needed, but somebody else did it. Like, I don't know.
I think it's just like I honestly feel like someone took a Pokemon game like from like the Game Boy Color era, or Game Boy Advanced era. Like you took Pokemon Sapphire and you added all the things we talked about, platforming and like more in depth stuff and RPG esque like skill tree system stuff like that, and added that to Game Boy Advance Pokemon game, and that's what you get from this game, and it's a lot of fun.
Right, yeah, exactly. It's just fun. Like, you'll have a good time with this one.
What is your favorite and least favorite thing about this game?
My favorite thing is probably I just like collecting monsters in this game. Like, honestly, I'm a fool for collecting monsters. Like, if you know me, I've collected every single Pokemon. I still
Yeah.
use the same fucking Charizard from my Game Boy Advance, So, like, I love collecting, like, stuff like that. And the fact that each of the monsters, like, is used outside of combat, too, in their own special way, just adds so much more for making me want to get every single one of them. Like, it's so enjoyable to me that they're not just used in battle, but outside of battle too.
Yeah, 100%. And then least favorite?
I probably it's probably tied between the grindiness and how long battles can go on for in this game. Like at first I like to watch the animations in this game, but eventually I caught myself speeding it up to ×8 because I want to get through battles quicker, because it's just sometimes it feels like too many turns in a battle. It feels like I said, those 8 turns where you watch the same animation over and over and over again. You're like, okay, this if it was like 4 or 5 turns would feel better, like,
yeah, just get me through it.
like, some games do too less, some games do too much, but this game could just be, if it was a little tweaked down, like if the attacks did just a bit more damage, like I feel like it would be a bit better.
Yeah, and I agree. I think my favorite is for sure Cat Zerker. I don't care what anyone says. Best
Good.
monster.
Good,
Cat with sword.
Good call. It really was. It's like, God, that thing is. Do you think
I
it's
just
like
loved it.
sentient? Like
I just loved it. I don't
mean,
know. Every time I got to use it, I was like, Cat Zerker! And I was just like, I was so happy about it. And on the same par with that, like just like loving your monsters was like a big part of it for me. Like my blob named Bob, like that is just classic, and I loved him.
Right.
And it's just like that. The monsters really sell the game for me. It was a lot of fun. They're very unique and they're very cute, and that's awesome. That's my favorite part of it.
Right. You
for
can get a king blob in this game. Just on
yeah,
a
yeah,
random side.
I got him. Yeah, I got him.
It's so great. Like,
his name was King Bob.
oh my God.
We had this thing where every time we would get a new Bob, because there's different elemental effects, we would just delete the old one. It was horrible. It would just replace the other one. And then my not favorite part of it was probably just the characters weren't fully developed. I think was a huge thing for me. I wanted there to be a little bit more of an RPG aspect. I don't think that they were going for that, which is totally fine. But I think they could have added a little bit more on that.
Yeah. They, like we were talking about, they feel a little bit lackluster. Like there's no personality to them. Like,
there's nothing behind their eyes.
Yeah,
kind of
the eyes.
Yeah, the eyes. Games it reminds you of. Everyone knows we're gonna say Pokemon.
Fucking Pokemon.
Fucking
Like
Pokemon.
this game is This game is basically like Pokemon fresh and new. Like I don't know, it's its own thing though. It
Yeah.
stands aside from Pokemon. It's not like making a Pokemon you know Pokemon like a mod game. Like
Hmm.
there's a lot of those kind of games we played. It's not one of those. It's its own definitive game. You can see where it drew from it, but it really stands apart and made it its own thing.
And in a very, very strong and good way. It doesn't feel like a cheap like ripoff or anything like that. Like when we talk, like I played Pokemon Radical Red on stream. That was a lot of fun. I had a great time with it. But you could definitely tell it was a modded Pokemon game that they just ripped off and replaced the story. In this game,
Yep.
it is its own game fully. I also like to think of it as like an alternate reality Pokemon. Like this is where like if we time jump to a different reality, me and you right now, this would be the Pokemon in that reality.
That would be
Everyone
cool.
would be playing Monster Sanctuary, you know?
Yeah, there'd be
People-
like 40 of these. Like,
People would have like cat zerker tattoos instead of like Latios tattoos.
oh my god.
You know what I mean? Like that's what I like to think of it as, and I think it does really well as that thing. How much would you recommend this game, like, and who would you recommend it to?
I would definitely recommend this game probably at like solid 8 to 8.5. Like this is definitely a fun game for anyone that likes the Metroidvania or any kind of Pokemon. Like, gotta catch them all. Fucking Jesus Christ. Any kind of game like that you're into, play this. Like if you're into RPGs, play this too. Like you're gonna have fun with this game, no matter I think what kind of indie kind of game you're into. This one stands aside, and you're gonna have a good time with it.
Yeah, and I'm not even gonna add anything because that's 100% what I was gonna say. It's 8.5 recommendation. Anyone who likes Pokemon or Metroidvania or JRPGs, like you would probably love this game. Um, this is an important thing, guys. The consoles that it's available on, we've been trying to add that in just because I know we keep forgetting it. Consoles that you can play this on are Switch, PC, Mac, Xbox, and PlayStation. Basically, anywhere that you can play a game on, you can play this game on. It's relatively cheap. I think normally it's on sale for it's like $20 or so, around that price range, but it goes on sale a lot. And with that being said, we do actually have a link in the show notes if you'd like to purchase this game from Humble Bundle, which is a charity organization. Full disclosure, the show does get like a couple cent kickback. We do appreciate that, but that is something that we add into the show notes as well if you're interested in purchasing this game after listening this far into the episode. With that being said, I don't think there's anything else we need to talk about, right?
No, we pretty much covered everything.
Again, guys, we did not pick a game for next week.
Oh my god, we didn't even talk about that
We didn't
again.
even talk about it. Life has been wild lately, guys. I'm not gonna lie. Like quitting my job, getting a new job all in 1 week, changing a lot of stuff. Life has just been super wild for me on my end, and I'm sure it has been for Tom because he's always really busy.
Yeah, it never really ends here for me. So
So I guess we'll see you next week and we'll do whatever we do when we do it. That's probably the easiest way to describe it. I'll do the outro really quick. If you're a developer that wants to talk about your indie game, send us an email at blockbrospodcast@gmail.com. Again, guys, that's blockbrospodcast@gmail.com. Or if you have a game that you'd like us to talk about on the show, clearly we need suggestions because we keep fucking forgetting to talk about it. You can shoot us an email, blockbrospodcast@gmail.com. Block Bros Podcast streams every Tuesday night around 10:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Oh, wait, no, sorry, that's not right. It's Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We cut out Twitter. Fuck you, Twitter.
we don't need your tweets.
I love Twitter. I can't even say that. I fucking love Twitter. Opening music is 8-Bit Fun by the Heatley Bros. Hey, Tom, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
You can find me at Tom Dykers, most pages, Tom Dykers Tattoos, Facebook, Instagram, recently TikTok. You can also find my page at Anchor13 Tattoo. That is my business account on all platforms. So
Awesome. And of course, I'm Sean is a Ginger, all one word. SEAN is a Ginger. I'm a Twitch streamer. I stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and I play a lot of games. I also make content under Sean is Ginger on every single platform that you could probably find. Of course, guys, if you're interested in finding us, all our information is in the show notes, so just click that. And if you made it this far on the podcast and you like what you hear, go ahead and give us a rating. It really helps more than I think people realize. And if you're this far in the episode and you don't like what you're hearing, what the fuck are you doing with your life?
Right? Hey, but that's an hour and 10 minutes. And you're like, I hate these guys.
Yeah, you just like
Listen.
seething and L plus ratioing in chat. All right, guys. We'll catch you next week. Block Bros Podcast is a Lost Cause Media production. Bye.
Bye.
Lost Cause Media.